The church had spent centuries fighting evil, but no one had ever imagined a time when evil would begin winning. Across the world, reports of violent possessions were increasing faster than trained exorcists could respond. Priests who had dedicated their lives to driving demons from human souls found themselves overwhelmed. Some never returned from the rituals they performed. Others survived but carried invisible scars that haunted them forever. The Vatican quietly opened new training centers, preparing a new generation for a battle most people refused to believe existed. Every whispered prayer became another weapon in a war hidden from ordinary eyes. Among the students was a young nun named Sister Anne. Unlike many others, she had never dreamed of becoming an exorcist. Her life had been shaped by fear long before she entered the convent. As a child, she had watched her mother suffer terrifying episodes that everyone called mental illness. Doctors offered medicine, neighbors offered pity, and the church remained silent. But Anne remembered something no one else seemed willing to admit. During those terrifying nights, her mother's voice sometimes changed into something ancient and cruel. She spoke languages she had never learned. She knew secrets that no stranger could possibly know. When Anne looked into her mother's eyes, she sometimes felt as though another being was staring back. Those memories never disappeared. Even after years of prayer, they returned in nightmares so vivid that she could still hear the screams echoing through empty hallways. She convinced herself they were only memories. Deep inside, however, another possibility frightened her far more. What if her mother had never been mentally ill? What if something far darker had been hiding behind the diagnosis all along? At the training center, Sister Anne worked in the medical ward, caring for victims after exorcisms. She watched exhausted priests stagger out of ritual rooms covered in sweat and bruises. Some whispered prayers even after the ceremony ended, terrified that the demon might still be listening. Others stared silently into space, unable to explain what they had witnessed. One afternoon, an elderly priest named Father Quinn noticed Anne watching through a small observation window. Instead of ordering her away, he invited her inside. The room smelled of candle wax and holy oil. A young man was restrained to a chair, his breathing slow and uneven. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. He smiled, not with relief, but with the confidence of something that enjoyed terrifying everyone around it. Without warning, he looked directly at Sister Anne. "I know who you are," he whispered. The room became silent. No one had introduced her. The priest exchanged uneasy glances. Then the man's smile widened. "Your mother is waiting." A freezing chill ran through Anne's body. The ritual continued for nearly an hour. Prayers echoed against the stone walls while the victims screamed with impossible strength. The crucifix hanging above the altar shook violently. Candles flickered although there was no wind. Finally, the young man collapsed unconscious, and the unnatural silence returned. Father Quinn studied Anne carefully. "You weren't afraid," he said. "I was terrified." "That's not the same thing." From that day forward, Father Quinn secretly allowed her to observe more sessions. Church law discouraged women from performing exorcisms, but he believed she possessed an unusual gift. She noticed details others missed. She recognized subtle changes in breathing, expressions, and voices before the demons revealed themselves. More importantly, the possessed often reacted to her presence immediately. It wasn't admiration, it was recognition. As weeks passed, Anne began hearing strange whispers whenever she walked through the oldest corridors of the monastery. At first, she blamed exhaustion. Then the whispers started answering questions she had never spoken aloud. One evening, she followed the sounds into a forgotten chapel beneath the building. Dust-covered abandoned pews and faded paintings of saints stared down from cracked walls. In the center of the room stood an ancient wooden cross scarred by fire. The whisper became clear. Anne spun around. No one was there. She hurried toward the exit, but the heavy door slammed shut before she reached it. Candles burst into flame one after another. A shadow slowly stretched across the floor, moving against the direction of the light. Then a familiar voice echoed through the chapel. Her mother's voice. "Why did you leave me?" Anne's heartbeat thundered in her ears. She squeezed her rosary so tightly it cut into her skin. "This isn't real," she whispered. The laughter that answered was not human. When the priests finally forced the chapel door open, they found Anne unconscious beneath the cross. Deep scratches covered the stone floor around her, forming symbols no one recognized. Father Quinn looked at the markings and quietly ordered every student out of the room. Only he remained. His face had turned pale because he had seen those symbols once before, 30 years earlier, the night Anne's mother had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital.